During an interview with MAGA Fox News host Sean Hannity, Donald Trump simultaneously totally screwed himself and gave the game away in a desperate bid to spin the ongoing corruption scandal of Trump accepting a $400 million luxury jet from a foreign government that he intends to take with him once he leaves office, after making American taxpayers foot the bill for the millions or billions of dollars in security upgrades needed to temporarily make it Air Force One. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to play from this interview, but I want to start with this one, which is Hannity previewing it. Hannity, who is Trump's closest ally at Fox News, which is saying something when you consider the Fox News roster. He makes it very clear this is a desperate bid to spin the corruption scandal about the Qatari jet.
But despite a slew of recent accomplishments, groundbreaking diplomacy, the legacy state-run media mob still managed to find their new obsession, an offer from the government of Qatar for a Boeing 747 jumbo jet to...
So again, this is Hannity previewing. Okay, listen, Trump is doing these amazing things and, the radical left media, they're going after Trump. So we have to help Trump desperately here. That's the entire purpose. That's the mission statement of this interview. Trump is wildly unpopular. He's increasingly unpopular. People are not happy with his 100 days in office. And the initial polling surrounding this plane situation is really bad for Trump. So it's an all hands on deck situation for MAGA media. But again, they kind of screwed themselves in the foot, starting with this clip here.
President?
Hi, thank you very much.
Okay, by the way, we're on a beautiful Air Force One. Not a bad plane.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. It's a beautiful plane. And
so they're on Air Force One, the current Air Force One, the one that Trump's bitching about nonstop. And Hannity acknowledges it's a great plane, and Trump himself acknowledges it's a great plane. So then why do you need a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar, which violates the Constitution, gives at least the appearance of corruption? It's almost certainly corrupt, but I mean, it certainly at the bare minimum gives the appearance of it. Why are you putting yourself and the American people through this when the plane you're currently sitting on works more than fine? See? But Trump makes it worse.
These planes, the plane that you're on right now is almost 40 years old. And when you land and you see Saudi Arabia and you see UAE and you see Qatar and you see all these, and they have these brand new Boeing 747s mostly, and you see ours next to it. This is like a totally different plane. It's much smaller. It's much less impressive as it is. And, we're the United States of America. I believe that we should have the most impressive plane. So anyway, so they said to me...
You see how he gave the game away right there? It's Freudian with him. It's like, theirs are bigger than mine. I landed the airfield, and they have such a long, rigid, giant plane. And mine is not that, it's not that big. It's not that impressive. And we can't have that. We have to have the biggest. It has to be twice as big. Like it's Freudian psychology there. It's Donald Trump's insecurities on full manifest. And it's like, it would be hilarious if it weren't cartoonishly corrupt and dangerous. That's what this is. He's jealous of the size and appearance of these luxury jets, which are less secure, less formidable than this 40-year-old Air Force One. Air Force One at 40 years old is retrofitted and outfitted with the greatest applications of military security from the greatest military power in the history of civilization. His 40-year-old plane might not have the gold accents or the luxury amenities, but it can do shit that those planes simply can't do. It's more powerful, more important, more secure, and that's not enough for him because it has to look better and be bigger. But we'll continue.
We would like to, in effect, we would like to make a gift. You've done so many things, and we'd like to make a gift to the Defense Department, which is where it's going. And I said, well, that's nice. Now, some people say, oh, you shouldn't accept gifts for the country. My attitude is, why wouldn't I accept a gift? We're giving to everybody else. Why wouldn't I accept a gift? Because it's going to be a couple of years, I think, before the Boeings are finished.
So a couple of things. We got some more clips, but a couple of things. Yes, if it's going to be a few more years before the new Air Force Ones are available, just continue to use the ones you have. You have no evidence. No evidence has been permitted that the current Air Force One on which Trump and President Biden and President Obama before him operated on, that it's vulnerable or deficient in any way other than that Trump doesn't think it's big enough. It doesn't satisfy his Freudian insecurities, and it doesn't have like gold accents. That's his beef with it. So while Boeing takes its time with the new Air Force Ones, and if you want to get on Boeing's ass, so be it. But while those things are in progress under contract with the American government, just use what you've got. There's no need for this luxury jet, which the American taxpayer will have to spend millions or billions of dollars to properly secure to make it EMP proof and everything else secure enough for the president of the United States. And the reason that people are upset isn't just because of Qatar's, shady ties and everything like that. It's also because you're going to take the damn plane with you once you leave. Trump would not totally undermine, but he would significantly reduce the criticisms against him if he committed that the plane would remain in U.S. custody, in U.S. possession once he leaves office. I'm not taking it with me. It's not going to go to the Trump presidential library. It's going to stay with the United States. Then he would have a much more compelling case to make. But he doesn't here. Here's another clip.
But I thought it was a beautiful gesture. Now, there are those that say we shouldn't be accepting gifts to the Defense Department. And I would say only a stupid person would say that. Why wouldn't we do that? And so it helps us out because we'll have a relatively new plane instead of having 40-year-old planes. These planes are 40 years old, and that's not representative of our country.
So again, it's just vanity. Well, you haven't explained how Air Force One is deficient. If anything, you began this interview with Hannity acknowledging that it's a great plane. He shoots himself in the foot. He totally screws himself. You see what he does? And that gives the game away at the same time. There's nothing wrong with the current Air Force One, and this is all Freudian for Trump. So it's not just about the Qatari luxury jet. They also discuss drug prices and other things as well. Here's Donald Trump lying about that, speaking of lowering drug prices and the role that Democrats purportedly play in this.
Considered the most powerful lobby. And the Democrats were making it impossible to lower drug prices. They knew what they were doing. And I instituted a most favored nations provision or concept where we're going to pay whatever the lowest country pays in the world. So if it's the UK, which pays very low, in any country, it could be any country, whatever the lowest price is. And the drug companies have accepted it. Everybody accepts it. But the Democrats never wanted to play ball. They never wanted to do anything. It's the Democrats' fault that people were being ripped off for years and years.
So again, just total dishonesty and stupidity from Trump. A few things. Number one, Donald Trump's most favored nations policy that he created back in his first administration was done via executive order. And executive orders are by far the weakest of legal action. You have the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, and constitutional amendments. You have federal statute, and then executive orders are beneath them. They're most easily challenged and overturnable by parties and the courts. Trump's executive order was challenged successfully in court and struck down. That's why that policy wasn't implemented. Trump could have worked with Democrats to craft legislation to create it as a federal statute, which is harder, but still possible to overturn. He chose not to do that. He could do it now with Republican control of Congress. His party controls the White House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. Okay? Total unified control of government that Democrats would love to have, only fantasize about. And he's still choosing to do this via executive order, knowing that it will probably be successfully challenged and overturned like it was before. He's deliberately making it vulnerable to right-wing challenge. Number one, so again, lying his ass off. It's his fault and his stupidity and his transparent attempt to basically cynically benefit in terms of optics from saying, oh, I'm trying to lower drug costs, but not actually taking concrete, resolute steps to lower costs. Number one. Number two, Democrats instituted a policy that capped insulin at $35 for everybody on Medicaid and Medicare. That was the Democrats. Democrats under President Biden signed into law Medicare price negotiation, which for the first time allowed the federal government to negotiate the prices of Medicare, of drugs on Medicare. Now, some people say it's only 10 drugs. Bullshit. It's 10 at a time. And you can say, well, that's not enough. But it's not just 10. It's 10 every year. The prices are negotiable. And that's still federal law. And Donald Trump could continue what President Biden and the Democrats put into effect, but there's no indication that he will, because as you can see, it's really just about trying to own the libs. I've got one other clip here. Again, Donald Trump doubling down on this strange anecdote where he refers to, I don't know if he's referring to Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever as the fat drug, the fat shot drug.
I told the story today. It was well received. A friend of mine who's slightly overweight, to put it mildly, went to a drugstore in London, and he was able to get one of the fat shots. I call it the fat shot, the jabs, that you lose weight.
By the way, a lot of people laugh at that. Some people get offended by. I don't get offended by anything.
I'm just glad I didn't use his name. He's actually a very rich guy. He's a very successful guy.
He's glad you didn't use his name.
No, he's very happy. He knows exactly who I was talking about. He called. He said, that was interesting. He said he was very concerned that I might use his name. It might slip. No, he doesn't have to worry. But
this is what he does. This is all he can do. He can just like trot out these ridiculous anecdotes about Wegovy and Ozempic, but not actually speak to substantive policy. Again, Democrats have called his bluff. Senator Bernie Sanders and Congressman Ro Khanna have said, hey, listen, if what you're saying is true, cool. Let's enshrine it in law. Let's work together. Let's take your executive order, which is, again, very vulnerable to judicial challenge and overrule, and make it more formidable, less likely to be successfully challenged and overturned by making it federal law. And Trump is refusing to do it. And Democrats, by the way, some people have said, well, Democrats would never give Trump a win like that. Bullshit. Not only are they on the record, they've gone public calling Trump's bluff, saying, let's do it. Let's do it right now. We'll propose legislation. But Democrats have actually proven it before. In 2020, an election year where Trump was president, running for re-election, Democrats in the House and in the Senate worked with Trump on 2 major COVID relief bills, knowing that he'd get the credit for it in an election year. And they hated his guts, but they did it anyway because Democratic politicians are objectively morally superior to elected Republicans. There is no contest here. Republicans would never work with a Democratic president in a state of crisis because they hate Democrats more than they love this country. Democratic politicians are not the same. So people who say that are just full of shit. They're trying to cover for Trump, refusing to work with not just Democrats, set Democrats aside. He has total control of government, White House, House, Senate, and the Supreme Court. And he's choosing instead to pitch this in a way which makes it so damn likely it's going to be successfully overturned because he doesn't give a damn about cutting drug prices. He never did, and he's objectively inferior in that regard to Democratic politicians like President Biden, who took much more concrete and robust steps than Trump ever has. So, disaster interview with Sean Hannity, desperate. They're both trying to spin this Qatari luxury jet situation that gave the game away. Trump totally screwed himself by saying, yeah, Air Force One works just fine, but you know what? It's not big and gold. Okay, pretty pathetic. And I imagine the polling on this is only going to get worse as a consequence. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.